I'm recording. Um, you were talking about this primordial soup, and I'm gonna just say, just in case we decide to share this, welcome. If you guys are watching this, we decided to share this video, but we're just having this conversation about life. And also, Candice is doing a reading for me on my kind of astrology key.
Yeah,
My astrology genes, my genes of astrology keys.
that's right. It's a
Um,
hybrid.
because I know nothing. I mean, I know like this much about astrology, and you've tried to explain it to me so many times with such patience. And I'm like, okay, I gotta record this and then go back and listen to it 10 times. But the primordial soup, we were just kind of talking about, because you had mentioned, Candace, that this is like chaos and gene key 3. And I'd asked you
Right.
earlier, like, well, what is that? Which is funny because you had said you'd seen it as the split of the feminine masculine coming back together. And that's exactly what I thought of when I thought of the number 3.
Mm,
And it's birthing sometimes, right? It's like this
mhm.
birthing energy of, and then when I think of chaos, I kind of see when you said that primordial soup, it's creation.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
like I
it's
keep picturing all this stuff like hitting each other and exploding, and then all these new particles come out of this these pieces. Um it's like magnetism of some sort. I don't know how to, we don't have, like you said, we don't really have a foundation or basis to base what's happening to us anymore off
that's
of.
right. That's right. Yeah, where we're going right now in our experience, we are going into new territory. We're forming new territory.
Yeah.
We are we are some sort of a meeting place or middle ground for this transformation that's happening, and I'm understanding it and understanding it as your human essence, your human self
Mhm.
coming together with a cosmic self
Mhm.
or your eternal essence. And we're in the center, not choosing either over the other, where the human self is standing strong and saying I and knowing its worth and saying I'm not giving up myself, and the cosmic self is also saying I know my worth and I'm not giving up myself. Yet they're meeting together in
Mhm.
this co-creational energy. So that can kind of represent the one and the two and the third energy in
Yeah.
and of itself. And in that meeting in the center, it is creating some sort of a chaos, which is a primordial soup or a primordial energy in us right now. Like as we speak, this energy is like, I'm seeing it as like a collision point that
Mhm.
is causing what you're saying is like the particles. This it's causing uh, base base elements, base energy to then be created with.
Yeah.
And so in gene key 3, the shadow frequency is chaos and the gift frequency is innovation. So we're not quite innovating yet. Some already are.
Yeah.
Some are have possibly already gone through the experience that I'm speaking of here, and they're already innovating. They're already taking that chaos energy and the energy, for lack of a better way of expressing it, coming down and the energy coming up, and they're already like, okay, I'm going to get creative with this and I'm going to start building the next framework for the next the next reality, and it's on the cutting edge, and it can look like madness to people, to the ones who haven't gone through the experience yet. Perhaps
Yeah.
the human self is here and the cosmic energy is just up there and you're just beginning to feel the tingles
Yeah.
of it.
I got to show you what I drew earlier. Oh, and then when you were talking about that primordial soup and all of these things kind of clashing together, I was just hearing new elements are being created.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we don't, oh, wow, what's this new element? Okay, what do I do with this? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a combination of the old elements. So you have this old one and you have this one that it's like they come together and they create this combustion, which creates well, I almost said alchemy, but then I heard the word amalgamization.
Yeah, that word's been coming up a lot.
Whew. Oh, here we go. Ooh. Man, I just got some goosebumps on that one. Oh, yeah. And so it's something else kind of powerful to talk about. I know we weren't planning on just going into a double bubble here, but we
Yeah,
can't
it's
help
whatever.
ourselves.
Let's
We
go.
can't help ourselves.
Can't.
Um, I had seen like this. Oh, and then earlier we were talking about wheels, and it's like the wheels, there are no wheels. It's like we're driving a car with no wheels.
Driving it from this uh, centrifugal force
Hmm.
of the coming together, of the clashing of the tides,
Hmm.
what we've been and what we're becoming is like clashing together, and we're not anchored into the anchor point. Seems it's like we're in a boat and we've pulled up the anchor.
Yeah.
There's nothing that we're anchoring into except for this reference point that we are.
I'm hearing the clashing of the titanium.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a totally different elements. I can't draw this because I'm not very good at this rendition. But what I was seeing was two planes of like, when you have like two panes of glass, and those are planes of existence, and each of those planes is a version of reality. And I had this vision the other day, and I was thinking that we're sliding in between those planes, those panes, those planes of glass, or whatever you want to call it. And it's almost like there's a glitch happening while we're going through this. It just feels
Ooh.
glitchy, almost as if until that pain, those pains kind of merge, or I'm not even seeing, I'm seeing these two different planes. We're in between, we're the bridge, but we're not necessarily bridging. It's like we are the bridge. So
But
we're
literally.
expanding to absorb, like you had mentioned, the light body, or I heard the light body, that's not what you said, but the light body higher self. So we're absorbing all of that, all of these ingredients that are the new ingredients, that are the new elements, that is the new alchemy. And this is creating our reality. And we have both, we have all of it, the old and the new, right? And as we're absorbing this information and coming into a new realization of what that looks like, feels like, sounds like, how we interpret it, how we work within this new medium
Mm.
of embodiment, it's going to feel glitchy.
And as you were talking, I was hearing shock absorbers, like we're the shock absorption. And in the
Ooh,
bridge, like in
goosebumps.
bridges, there are shock absorbing systems that are designed to withstand seismic activity. And
Mhm,
so we are somehow buffering the seismic activity of these energy waves that we were speaking of before we got on here,
mhm,
that we speak of, that cause cymatics, that cause particles to spin and shift and
mhm.
spontaneously repatternize themselves. So we're absorbing these shocks to the system, to this greater system,
Yeah. While simultaneously creating them.
while creating new concepts, new ways to see ourselves, new ways to perceive ourselves, and new ways to work with concepts that may have been really dense before.
Mhm,
um, we were speaking just before this of like playing with the energies of shame,
mhm,
and having a new experience with what we have possibly demonized in the past, and coming into this harmonic balance in the center of what we have perceived as dark and light,
mhm,
and somehow getting along with all of these players and welcoming in our entire guidance team that is the full spectrum of life, the full spectrum of light,
mhm.
that includes um, the dim light, the bright light, and everything in between, and moving through all of these messengers in fluidity, not taking anything personally, and not taking it the same way that we had before.
Yeah. Well, what
Um,
really is personal, if you want to think about it, persona, what is a
I was seeing that car
personified?
again. I'm seeing the car again, right? And we're
Yeah.
driving the car, okay, with no wheels,
Mhm.
which is
It's a
just the
hovercraft.
hover. We're in the hovercraft. It's
Mhm.
got no wheels because we're not on the same road. We're not driving in the same way. We're hovering above it.
Yeah.
And there's sensor lights. And it's like when you're in the car, you're not going to take it personally that your car says you're out of gas. You're not going to take it personally that you need an oil change or that you need,
Mhm.
you know, it's these sensing systems. And that's what we're navigating in our body, that we can recognize these senses. And let's say shame is one of them. When the shame light comes on, when the
Mhm.
shame energy pops up, don't be ashamed of shame, right? It's like shame
Don't be
causes
ashamed
shame
if they're out of
itself.
gas.
That's right. Don't be
Just
ashamed.
say what it
Shame is a
is.
sensor. It's sensing
Hold
something.
on, let me just pause.
Yeah, no worries.
So we were talking about the now, and you were talking about the car and the lights, and I love that
Sensors.
analogy, the sensors, because in my vision, when you were saying that, part of it too is okay. So we have these sensing, right? And maybe let's say shame is one of the sensors that goes off. You're out of gas. It's no different than you need to eat. It's we
Mhm.
think it's different because we give it a label or we think
Mhm.
it's bad or good, like you were saying. There's this, but also what I'm getting when you use that analogy, I've got goosebumps to that, is also that we are essentially not even aware of what some of those sensors mean. Like that sensor goes off on the dashboard and you're like, wow, that's a new one. What does that mean?
Yeah. And it might be telling you like there's something inside of you that you're not claiming. There's, you
Mhm.
know, you feel ashamed, but maybe you should feel, maybe the shame is an indication of like something inside of you wants to claim the right to feel how you feel. And
Mm,
it wants to claim the right to be unique and different in a reality that's been super conforming. And
yeah.
maybe you're on the cutting edge and maybe you're designed to be unique. And it's
Mhm.
like, you know, you can either be ashamed for your uniqueness and for the fact that you contain these new elements and that you are going where no man has gone before and that you want to, and that you might be excited by danger, you know, because
Mhm.
you're playing with fire, you're playing with danger. And it's like, what's really dangerous? It's like, well, this might be dangerous to your ego, or this might be dangerous to
Mhm.
who you thought you were. This
Warning,
might be,
warning.
yeah, warning, warning, engine is overheating. And it's like, how far can I take this
Yeah.
car? How can I, how, you know, maybe
But
that's
see, that's
okay.
part of it too, is that the old way, the old template, the old way that the car ran,
Mhm.
that's how we're used to operating. And some people don't even realize they're in a new vehicle. Like
No,
they're
that's
looking
right.
for that road, they're looking for, and so, there are some people that are like, I'm going to follow that person over there until I figure out how to operate this
Oh my
vehicle.
God, I love that so much. And then the person's like, oh, I gotta tag along. Okay. And then I'm also being guided like with these hovercrafts, we can hover now. We don't have to stay in the lines the same way as we before. It's like, oh, whoa, I'm off the road. Oh, wait, okay, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hit the rocks. I'm above them. And you're just like,
Yeah.
whoa. The rules and regulations that were there before aren't holding me in. And then so you might go back up to the highway onto the road with the lines because you're like, I know these. I'm
Yes.
just gonna stay here. I
Safety.
don't have to stay here. I know I can go off, but like, ooh, but I remember this. I'm just gonna go back on with my hovercraft and be on, you
Yeah.
know, stay in the lines for a little bit.
Yeah. And
So
then
it's
there's
like,
those other people that are going to be like, how far can I go?
yeah, I'm
Screw
gonna take
everybody
this.
else.
And then they might look like heretics. They may look like total heretics, total lunatics. And, you know, I might be watching one of these people go off the roads and I might be thinking, that person is crazy.
Yeah.
And then later on down the line, I might actually decide, you know what, this is getting boring. I remember seeing someone go off the rails. I'm gonna just try that for a moment. And then I
Yeah.
might go off, and then my heart's like, oh my God, I feel alive. Like, this is different. This is amazing. And then I look back and go, wait a minute, that person was revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
That really actually, I judged them. I was like, you crazy mother effer, because I wasn't ready. But
Mm-hmm.
now I look back in admiration and I'm like, holy, they were just so, you know, ahead of the curve. They were
Yeah.
doing what I could only dream of dreaming of. Like I wouldn't even let myself dream of that. They
Yeah.
didn't just dream, they just did it. And like it left an imprint. And here I am now going off road. just like that person I saw. Here I go. And then the next guy behind me goes, idiot.
They don't
Now
even
I'm
know
that
there's no road
guy.
over there.
Yeah, now I am that guy, right?
Oh man, I have so many thoughts. This is just a fun analogy because that is what it really feels like. And we were talking before about the energies and how it does literally feel like, I mean, for me, it feels like a hovercraft. Like one minute I'm driving and the next minute I'm like, whoop. All right, so I just
Mhm.
shifted realities.
Yeah.
One minute I hear ringing in my ears, and the next minute I'm like, I feel different than I did 5 minutes ago. And this
Hmm.
is also back to those sensors. Like we're being called to feel and sense things when we didn't necessarily recognize them before,
Oh.
and also not to not to freak out, you know.
Hmm.
Just because
Yeah.
a sensor comes on doesn't mean it's not going to go off later.
There's a sensor that goes off. It's like, remain calm, carry on, keep calm and carry on. Don't let it trip you up. Just like let yourself feel it because the level and layer, the capacity of our feeling body is way more than we had ever known. And we've
Yeah,
been so afraid of our feelings for so long
yeah.
that we've just like jammed up all our signals. But now that we're making space and we're allowing our
Mhm.
feelings actually have a next level intelligence when we're not feeling traumatized by them. When
Yeah,
we're not traumatized by our feelings and going, holy shit, how do I numb this? How do I stop this? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It's actually bringing us information like shame or whatever. It's like,
yeah.
oh, okay, I can actually have a relationship with you that doesn't
Or
feel
anger or
like I'm
fear or
dying.
judgment or all
Mhm,
of it.
mhm.
Whew.
So our total relationship with our sensing bodies is changing, and that's been a message that's been coming over years. And it's like, oh, it's actually here now. It's like we were talking about it, and we were feeling little bits of it popping in and out. Ooh, that's nice. Ooh, that's
Yeah.
different. Ooh, and then it's just like, okay, now everything, everywhere, all at once.
Mhm.
We've been priming you, and now now it's just like, oof, it's on, and
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, wow, that is actually a lot. You said it would be, and it is.
Yeah.
Okay, trust. I can trust. Now it's developing a trust with the intuition, and let's take it for a ride. And then also something that's happening is in the feelings is the revealing that a lot of our agreements and our understandings and our contracts or
Yeah.
our identities, it's like all of this sudden we can like see them for what they are. It's like, ooh, I was people pleasing there.
Mhm.
That was people pleasing, or ooh, that was me trying to be this nice, this what I thought was the right thing to be. I was actually conforming there.
Yeah. I
How do
was
I know
driving the
that?
car that somebody else wanted me to drive
Yeah.
down the road that somebody else wanted me to go down,
And it's like,
following somebody
how,
else that,
yes. Well, it's like, how do I know that? It's because I'm feeling it.
yeah.
It's like the feelings don't lie when you're really letting them fly, when you're really actually tapping into what they're saying and they're not all jumbled up. The space is there and it's like, oh, I can actually, it's a resonance thing. Your
Also,
mind can convince you all day long. Sorry, go ahead.
no, no, I'm feeling I didn't want to lose my train when you were talking about the contracts. Like,
Mm,
who was I when I made that contract? What reality was I in when I agreed to that? And does that agreement fit any longer? Is it something that I need to conform to or stay in agreement with when it no longer is even have anything to do with my path at all? And not trying to hold on to those
yeah.
because even that can be, ooh, I have goosebumps everywhere on that one.
Yeah, that's part of the highway. That's part of the road and the lines. Those
Yeah,
agreements and those contracts that we made, we're driving on that same road and it's like we agreed to stay on that same road forever.
yeah.
It's like I will always be this person.
Mhm.
And it's like if Windows number 2 said, I'll always be Windows number 2. And then
Mhm.
the updates are coming and it's like,
Yeah.
nope, I promised to stay at this setting. And I'm
Yes.
going to be a good person. I'm
Mhm.
going to be a good being and I'm going to stay at like the original, even though there's so many updates and you're like, nope, this is what a good person does. I committed. I'm in. I'm good. It's like, okay.
There's actually a new show. I don't know how new it is on TV. I don't know if it's called The Last Man on Earth or The Last, and it's got this really funny two people playing in it. I'll have to get the link and share it with you because it's kind of funny, but they're like the last people on Earth. And the idea is that like a pandemic, everybody's gone except for these two people. And I won't tell the whole thing. It's just kind of cute and kind of funny. But imagine you can do whatever you want. And this one girl, she's like, I need to stop at all the stop signs still. I mean, I'm seeing this like parallel. And the
Whoa.
guy's like,
Oh my gosh, that would
she's
drive me
like, no,
crazy.
you're in a handicap spot. And he's like, we're the only people here. She's like, yeah, but those are still the rules. And this is exactly what we're talking about. We just watched this like 2 nights ago, my husband and I.
That
Off the
is,
scared.
please, that's
It's a
that's the
parallel.
perfect example.
Yeah.
That's the
And
perfect
then
example.
the two of them are totally opposite. Like he's like taking a margarita bath and drinking out of it. And she's just like, so what? Who cares? Everybody's going to respond to this differently. And so it's kind of like you don't want to go to those extremes either. Oh, hold on just 1 second.
Yeah,
I'm
no
going to
worries.
pause.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Sorry.
it's it's giving ourselves permission
Oh,
to be where we are exactly. And then and in that, you notice how much you've not in the past because you're like still conforming, still reeling yourself in and still compromising. And it's again, it's like, okay, compromising is good. You do need to compromise to function in the world. But
like
there's
for
a
example, I wanted to take a margarita bath, but instead I'm drinking a vitamin C water.
that's a great compromise.
Like,
Oh.
that sounds good. I better not do that right now. I'm just kidding. It would probably be rosé, but
Oh, yeah, right. Hmm.
so let's tie this in. So one of the things that you do, Candace, I'm just sharing this. I think we are going to try to post this, but we'll see how crazy we get.
Yeah,
A lot of the times so the videos that I do, if you're watching this, you've probably seen these videos before and you've probably seen Candace and I do this before, which we need to do this again more often.
yeah.
I tap into the collective very strongly. And you do too, Candace, but I would say for me, astrology has never been something I have aligned with fully. And I have had people that I've worked with that have tried to kind of give me an overview of my chart, and it never quite sticks. But I will say that, for example, you were bringing up Earth is in gene key 3, and that represents chaos. And I have been writing about chaos for for probably a year now. But I will say that a lot of it is, oops, I might have lost you.
Well, I just started sharing the screen. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's so weird though. I might have to
I can stop screen sharing. I just wanted to
no,
see
that's
how that
great. I'm just
rolls.
curious. Let me pause for a moment. Keep going. So you go ahead, go for it.
Okay, so can you see this?
Um, yeah, it's funny. It goes to my screen first, and now I can see your screen.
Okay. Oh, it looks like it kind of went away for me in that
So
little,
does
but you
that
can,
mean my moon sign changed to Sag?
well, just a second, because
Oh,
this is
okay.
this is everybody. This is
Oh,
the
okay.
collective world right
I
now.
got you.
Okay, so this is the world's chart. And I was just wanting to show you why the Earth is in gene key 3. Like
Yeah, okay.
how so the wheel is around, or this is the wheel around, and this is where the Earth is, and this is where the sun is.
Mm.
The
So,
Earth is the Earth
yeah,
is always opposite of where the sun is.
mm,
It's always directly across. So the sun is conjunct Mars in gene key 50, which is corruption. So Mars, this fiery energy of action that can sometimes denote anger and passion, is aligned with the energy of the sun, which is like the illuminator of everything, our personality. The sun comes in and just lights everything up.
yeah.
So it's amplifying the corruption in our data, in our DNA. Sorry, the corrupted data in our DNA, the corrupted data in our programming. That's the update. This
And
is
let me
like,
ask you this. This is like kind of a rhetorical question, but we're
yeah,
talking about correct. What is corrupted data
That's
in
a perfect question.
the
Just stop right there.
isn't
That's
everything
perfect.
perfect?
Well,
Speaking of the perfect question.
okay. So yeah, through the lens of the gene keys, it says corruption is just an experience that's been copied or downloaded or like memorized through
Yeah.
the lens of fear. It hasn't been entered in just as it is. It's been entered in through a lens of fear.
Okay.
And that in itself corrupts the data. It almost makes it impure because the lens, the empirical data has
How you're
been
seeing it isn't correct,
it's
too.
not correctly inputted into the DNA. So it literally is just like a malfunction or like a glitch. Like say it's supposed to be like ACG, you put it as AGC. You reversed something. You just one letter was out of place just because it was seen through the lens of fear, through the
Uh,
mind.
I'm just being called to look up really quick as you do that. What I'm finding there's something deeper to this as well. You know how I roll with this.
Go
And
flow.
it's what the word that came up for me was to break. So
Right.
something that was not necessarily complete.
Yeah, yeah, it incomplete. It's like you're downloading the full stream of information. You're
It's
uploading the
missing
zip file.
pieces.
It's missing pieces, and that just makes it corrupt. It's so plain.
Mhm.
It's
Or
so
it's been
plain as
altered.
day. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's been altered, and the way that they say it's been altered is it was converted through fear,
Yeah.
and that
That
had
was the
just
program that was used to interpret the information.
That's right. That's right. It was interpreted through fear.
Yeah.
So it's coming up right now and
Mhm.
it's super highlighted in the collective so
Yeah.
that we can face it. And what does that mean? That means that's like through the whole mainframe. That's through the whole biological system.
Mm.
So like everything is included in that. And and then we go over to the earth and it's like, well, what is the biggest antagonist? What are we evolving through? What's challenging us right now? And it's like chaos. And it's like, well, what is chaos? And it's like pure energy that hasn't been innovated yet. It's
Mm.
just primordial. It's like the primordial elements after a big volcanic eruption. It's like all of those really rich elements haven't been utilized into the soil and into the plants and everything
Yeah.
yet, but it will be.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable in this state, though, when the volcano's erupting or when the tectonic plates are moving or when the Big Bang is happening and then everything has to just find its place. Or it's like the choir is about to get on stage and they're all finding their place in line and they're all mixed up together and they're like, I don't know where to stand. And the teacher comes in and helps put everybody in their right place to sing the song.
Yeah.
So it looks like
So,
chaos and then it gets into coherence, right?
mhm.
Coherence, heart coherence, like orchestrated order. Like it looks like they're all scurrying and then all of a sudden it's like the curtain is about to open. So everyone all of a sudden just syncopate.
Boom.
Yeah, boom. And then it's like they all sing together. And everybody's like, oh, wow, it's so beautiful. But they didn't see the scurrying and the chaos before the curtains opened.
Mhm. All of the people behind the scenes are definitely aware of it.
That's right. Behind the scenes is definitely
So,
aware of
and
it.
that is something too, I think that's important and valuable to bring up because, like for me, I'm watching I'm observing the chaos in other people. I can see it in their energy field. I can read it in how and I can sometimes I can misinterpret that for my own energy. Like, oh, I must not be in balance today. I must be, but then I realize, oh, that's their energy that I'm picking up on. And I think that's just important to bring up. I don't know why I'm being called to bring that up. Let me think about that.
It's the
Or feeling.
buffer. It's like some of us are the stabilizers. You could
Yeah.
be part of the suspension bridge,
Mhm.
and you're
Yeah.
just like,
What
oh,
role
I'm
are
a
you
buffer.
playing in that moment? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is like I buffer a lot with humor because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know. And then it helps to give that moment of, I'm going to pause real quick. Speaking of chaos, I'm just going to pause. Temporary chaos. And you know what's funny about that is I do feel that so if we you talked about this earlier, like your whole family's sensitive, right? How many people out there have sensitive kids or are sensitive themselves? And it doesn't mean that your partner is going to, or it could be that your partner is sensitive and now they're operating without wheels and they didn't know before. So I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of people who are really affected. I mean, everybody I think is affected by this.
Mm-hmm.
And even the people that aren't really affected by it will have something that happens that causes some sort of alchemization in their reality or in their life. And earlier we've been talking, I don't know if we recorded when I said the new elements. So it's like chaos, right? You have this explosion. I kept seeing new elements being formed. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like we're alchemizing and creating these elements. And this is part of our building blocks of our new reality. And these elements didn't have the same they have different combinations.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, they're taking on different characters. They're taking on different personalities. They're taking on different physical characteristics. They're taking on different shapes, sounds, colors, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
That
that's
reminds,
chaotic.
yeah, that reminds me of a message of like the pre template
Mm.
material. It's almost like the prebiotics. Like we
Yeah.
understand that we need prebiotics and probiotics to help feed the bacteria. And so these energies that we're talking about, that we're calling new elements, they are literally like what entire reality frameworks are modeled after. And so it's like this ethereal, nebulous concept that we are introducing. And this is like this this stuffs that we play with. This is our playground, actually. And
And you
so,
just hit on something really valuable too, because earlier you were talking about the the our guides like shame.
mhm.
Well, you just were talking about probiotics and prebiotics feeding the bacteria. Bacteria we would see as shame. But in
Mm,
this case, we're not trying to fight the shame. And I'm using shame, fear, whatever, anger. We're not ignoring it. We're not
it's
trying
an
to battle it.
ingredient. It's an ingredient.
And it's all about getting the body into an alkaline state
Mhm.
versus highly acidic or the opposite.
Mhm.
So there is this balance that's being formed with this new. So through chaos, and this is temporary. I keep getting that message.
This too shall pass.
Yeah.
So, this gene key, I'm just going to read a tiny little bit. So, the whole I Ching is about like the whole book of the I Ching, which the gene keys came from. The gene
Yeah.
keys was inspired from the I Ching. It's about the nature of change itself. And so, it's usually translated as the book of changes. The hexagram, the I Ching hexagram that's associated with the third gene key, is translated as difficulty at the beginning. And so, this just little quick blurb here, no matter who or what we are, we're subject to constant change. It's been said by the Buddha, in fact, that the only constant is change, impermanence. When we let the truth in, it's very uncomfortable, at least at the beginning. This gene key is all about the process of letting change in. We have to let it into our heart, body, and soul. This is the contemplation on change. We can see here the dilemma is clinging. We naturally cling to the structures around us when change comes. Structure gives us the illusion of security. This is what most people do. We try to cling to our relationships, our marriages, our possessions, our habits, our routines. It's sort of a spoiler, or sorry, I don't even know what. Oh, yeah. I just read like 10 words ahead somehow. Um, it sort of works for a bit, but the big spoiler is death.
Wait,
And death. Okay.
the big spoiler, say that again, is death?
Yeah. So the big spoiler to all these structures that give us the illusion of security and all of these things that we cling to, the big spoiler, the big disruptor of all of these things that we make sense and safety of in our lives is death. It
Mm.
just comes when it comes. And, we're reminded of that every fall. at least here in Canada. I don't know
Yeah,
about you in Florida.
not
Uh,
exactly.
Not exactly, yeah. So every fall, I feel like I'm going through a death cycle with the trees as they're letting go of their leaves. It reminds me of this cycle of hibernation and letting go of what you've grown half the year. And it's the time of change. And so we're on this precipice as humanity of a very big change. And every year when we go when we line up with Gene Key 3 and we go through the 50, we do it every year. But it
That was my
feels like,
question too.
yeah, every time we go around, it's stronger. And some of these planets move faster. So the sun is changing its key like every week and a bit.
Okay.
Okay, same with the Earth. But then planets like Jupiter and like these big, heavier planets,
Yeah.
when they move through, it's longer. Like Saturn is in a 2.5 year cycle. So when Saturn went direct, it was in retrograde. When Saturn just like went direct, I felt like I went direct. I
Yeah.
literally felt like Saturn that all of a sudden I was like, boom, I just changed directions because Saturn is like it governs the physical structure. So I
Mm.
felt myself aligning to something. And I was like, what am I aligning to? And I checked the chart and it was like Saturn lined up with gene key 41. What's gene key 41? It's literally what comes after a period in a sentence. It's the capital letter that comes after the period of a whole new sentence.
So I'm just laughing at all of this for so many reasons.
Of course you are.
So part of it is what I've written about. So I wrote what you just said, I just wrote about. Surprise, surprise. And this is how I tune into the collective energy. I write all
Yes.
this stuff. And some of
Yes.
the key words that came in are the period, the dot, the ending and the beginning. When you said difficulty at the beginning, I can't remember what I wrote about. I'd have to go back and compare it to what we're discussing, and I could do that, but I don't want to run out of time because I do feel that it's relevant and it's going to make me go back and look, and I'll preface or I'll draw back to this video, but difficulty at the beginning. So that to me means so many things. We're at the beginning, a new beginning, but that also is a place marker in time. And it's like when you're at the beginning, you're looking forward. And I just feel like there's something big in that. And then you were talking about spoiler. The spoiler is death. And I saw a sports car with a spoiler on the back of it. And I look it
Mm.
up, and its spoilers are supposed to change the airflow above, around, and underneath vehicles or cars that we were talking about
Yes.
earlier to reduce wind resistance or drag, let go or be dragged, or use the air to create more downforce and enable more grip at high speeds. They're designed to spoil the airflow to reduce its negative effects. Boom.
Wow.
I'm like, all right,
That's
there's something
fun.
here about the spoiler. So playing with
Yes.
that. And I just really
Yes.
want to bring that up because this is how my Carrie interprets reality through these like
Mhm.
keywords and the double, this is double meanings. So
Oh, and I want to jump in there because
yeah.
the Gene Key 3 is all about moving from chaos to innovation to innocence. And
Mm,
the city of innocence just want to play with everything. It's like
yeah.
it's and then that's the highest frequency of the three is when it can turn it into play.
So yeah. And I had just been talking about inner child. I was trying to get differentiate between being childish that we would as adults label as, oh, the arguing and bickering that's happening between adults. We call that childish, but that could be a misinterpretation of energy that's anxiety, actually. That hasn't been, what did you say earlier about anxiety is, I don't know, you said something good around anxiety.
So I'm gonna pull the quote up, and
Yeah.
it's from my friend and teacher, one of my teachers in my life, Joshua. Let me see here.
And while you're looking that up, the other thing that you had brought up was bounce. Like you made a comment about bounce. And when I heard you say bounce after difficulty at the beginning, I thought cling free, like the balance that you put in the dryer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Static
you used the
free.
word cling, and it's static free. Well, static can have double meanings too. It can either be unmoving, it's static,
Mm-hmm.
right? Isn't that correct? Static, or it's static. It's electricity that is
Mm-hmm.
comes from this alchemization or this chemical reaction. So it's just all I feel like there's so many layers I could go with.
Oh, there's layers upon layers upon layers to play with, right? And this is where you and I started at the very beginning.
Mhm.
You know, we started with playing with our universe and playing with the messages and going in and uncovering, like archaeologists, all the layers in between of all the meanings. Because it's like the universe is like this beautiful secret that just wants to be unveiled. And it's like, if
Yeah.
you keep pulling on the thread, I'll keep unraveling. How
Yeah.
far do you want to go? And we're
Yeah.
just like, so at first, you and I were unraveling the string, and then we were like, it never stops. It
It's
never
so
stops, never stopping. It never stops. Okay.
true.
So when anxiety is treated as a problem, the gift of inner tension is being wasted.
Ooh,
And so this is a whole paradigm shift of how we're using our sensing body. And this is the sensors
totally.
again. It's like, oh, I've got anxiety. I need to stop it. It's like maybe there's some inner tension that's like a spring. Maybe you have untapped resources and power. Maybe there's a different way you want to be using this energy. And
Yeah.
it's so unutilized that it's causing you anxiety because you're doing all this stuff that you don't want to do. It's
Yeah.
making you anxious. Really, you want to get in alignment with the truth of who and what you are.
Yeah.
And who you're not is making you anxious and it's
Yeah.
making you nervous, having to like do stuff you don't want to do and like people please and who knows.
Yeah.
You're like,
Or
oh
it's
my
one of
God,
those feelers
I'm
too
gonna
to
have
tell
to,
you,
yeah,
pay attention.
yeah, I'm gonna have to go to this meeting with like whatever. It's just all these judgments. And it's like really what's inside is like, I want you to give me full permission to be who I am, how I want to be. Let me discover what that feels and what that means to me and how I can navigate my reality with such freedom. And like all the parts of yourself was like, ooh, no, we're not going to do that. Let's just put it back in the box. Let's put Jack back in the box.
Yeah.
But then something, the universal energy is like winding it. It's like, da, 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 da.
Woo!
Eventually just coming out of the box, right?
I had that scene from Elf playing out in my head where he knows it's gonna, he's winding
Yeah.
up the Jack in the Box, and he's like, oh. Well, also on that note, one of the things I talk with people about in general, because I work with a lot of people who have got anxiety, and you do
Yeah.
too.
I'm
I've
one
had
of
it.
them.
Yeah, I just,
I work with myself
I've
all
had
the
it.
time.
Me too. And we think this is, I think, really important to talk about because I do
Yes.
think that people are like, "Oh, I have anxiety," like it's a
I've got a
disability.
problem. And it's like, yeah, it's called intuition. And it's all of your
Yes.
inner senses calling bullshit, bullshit. Oops,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. No. No, it's fine. I mean, it's
Yeah.
true because it's like so. One of the first times I was like, when I years ago when I first started writing, I wasn't. I mean, I've always written. I've always written things down, and I've been a writer, but I was laying in bed and I'm sharing this because I do think it's so relevant for people. Because I'll ask people, well, what are you doing with that anxiety? And they're like, oh, I'm taking medication, which there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
Sometimes
it's
we
a
need
pathway.
medication,
It's
right?
a pathway.
Or I'm doing this or I'm doing that. Some people run, but I
Yeah.
have had a couple clients lately who can't run because they hurt themselves, for example, and they have all this nervous tension and they're like, I can't run, I can't work out, I can't do this. What are they going to do? And
Mhm.
I had this flashback. First of all, it's a different vehicle. So maybe that anxiety is coming up because there's something you haven't noticed before. You've
Mhm.
always been on this other path, and now it's like here for a different reason. So for me, I would lay in bed at night and I couldn't sleep. And then if I got up and listened, and I just started writing, letting whatever came through
Mm.
and download after download after download. And that anxiety was my higher self, if we want to
Ding,
label it
ding,
that,
ding.
my fractal, me,
Mhm.
frequency knocking on my door. And I was in resistance, which
And you're
created
like,
this
oh, yeah,
tension,
tension,
like a tight
inner
wire.
tension, inner
And then all
tension.
of a sudden, yes. And it's inner tension looking for attention.
And it's like that band that's like pulling
very
back.
uncomfortable. And so I got up and wrote. Now when I do that, I'm like, oh, relief. Now it doesn't always work that way. And sometimes you just have to sit with it and kind of work through it. But through
Mhm.
breathing or yoga or whatever,
Mhm.
because sometimes it's the body that actually needs to move and release.
Yeah.
And we don't always know what it is either. So that's
Mhm.
something else to keep in mind. And
And
that's,
be and getting used to get going into discovery and going into play and the deep listening and feeling. A lot of people aren't ready to address what's under there though, and they just want to push it down. And it's like, again, that anxiety sometimes is trying to tell you that you're not doing what you want to do. And you
yeah.
might be over people pleasing or over, you're taking on too many tasks and you're forcing yourself through life.
Hmm.
And so you might not be ready to hear that. And that's
Yeah.
why you have anxiety.
Hmm.
That's what anxiety shows up as. And then when you compound it, then
Hmm.
all of a sudden it can become it can become a total other energy because like I remember when I had so much anxiety, I couldn't go out in public and I
Yeah.
couldn't because there was just so much of that inner tension and
Yeah.
untapped resource because I can feel deeply my environment. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, now that you're out, like you've
Mhm.
got a lot of backlog to feel. And it's like,
Mhm.
no, I'm not ready.
Sensory
I'm gonna
sensory
stay on
overload.
sensory overload.
Oh, by the way, really quick before you go on, that's a really important topic to bring up too, because a lot of people are activating those inner gifts right
And
now.
yeah.
And it's you went to go back to fear. So a lot of people are having these gifts, and that tension and anxiety is that they are actually having conversations with loved ones that have passed on, or they are getting downloads about things that they didn't ever think that they knew anything about, or they're
Mhm.
having those traumas that were buried so deep. They're here.
Or
Surprise.
they're having synchronicity.
That too.
We get really excited when we have our lineups and our bleed throughs and our synchronicity.
Yeah.
We're just like, hee, hee, hee. Other people might get freaked the fudge right out.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, it might bring up paranoia because they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
I am not used to my reality lining up like this. And I saw that in a movie and you just said that. And then I saw it on a piece of paper. And then all of a sudden my boss was talking about it and
Yeah.
like, and they're just like, stop,
Totally.
stop, stop. Like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And it's just like, you know what? Just see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it lined up. Yep, that lined up. That's right.
Yeah.
It all synced up. Yes, that's right. It's called coherence. So let it be. Let's
And
let
you
it
don't
be.
have to do anything about it. But then
No, you
sometimes
don't.
you could if
If
you
you're
want
like Carrie and I and you want to play with your reality, you might be pulling on that strand and be like, it never
to.
stops, never stopping. It's gonna
And
keep
sometimes
going.
you have to take a break.
Sometimes you just need to eat some like what we call like lower vibrational food
Yeah.
and give us permission
Mhm.
like to just be low if we want. It's like how sometimes you want to just sink and slump and that's
Yeah.
okay too. Sometimes that's the remedy. It's like I'm going to go play a video game.
Yeah. I'm gonna
i'm
be an
going to go
earthling.
I'm going to just do what like is so basic and just like alleviate everything and click into something so basic and just be like, this is so good right now, this is what I need right now.
Mhm.
And that um I don't know why, but I feel like that's a good segue into this next part of this key. It's like this, there's two kinds of innocence, and this is connected to the gene key 3. Ignorant innocence, that's like a newborn baby, the creature that just expresses its beauty without awareness of itself. Then there's the wise innocence, like the old man or lady whose mind and heart has opened up again and again and again after a long search with much pain and travail. The wise innocence and this ignorant, so this wise innocence and this ignorant innocence, they're the same. They're the same field. The city is in the shadow. The Siddhic frequency is in the shadow, and it always has been. And that's the case for everything, is that shadow and density is just condensed light. It's compacted to such a degree as it unravels, as we pull the string, as we open up and allow space, it just unfolds. But it
Yeah.
was always there, is the thing. So the only difference is awareness. Wise innocence has come full circle. It's why grandparents and grandchildren have such a strong bond. It's why little babies look like old people and why old people often become very childlike again.
Wow. Wow. So true.
Mhm.
I feel like I
I'm
need to read
thinking of
that again.
I'm thinking of Benjamin Button.
I was thinking of Benjamin Button too. I was totally thinking of Benjamin Button. I'm
It's
like,
like two in one. It's like
that is so funny.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. I have so many thoughts that just came up from that. So, if we're looking at these gene keys and we're recognizing that these are the patterns that we're always in some sort of pattern. Yet, I have to ask, and this is a rhetorical question, but you know how we flow back and forth. Like, this is a question I would ask. Sorry, I can't decide how I want my light. Let there be light. So if we're creating a new reality and we're creating a new pattern, then why are we in this cycle? You know, it's like, okay, we're in a totally new reality from one perspective. Yet here we are in cycle again every year,
Every spiral.
every
So
spiral. Okay, that I
every
think is
spiral.
valuable.
Well, it's a cycle, it's a circle, but it's spiraling
Yep. Yep.
upwards, and every single increment in a towards a higher octave is
Mm-hmm.
almost like an entirely new reality with entirely new patterns that resemble the old patterns, but they're slightly different. And every single shift upwards reveals a new level of infinity to be expressed. And there's something that consciousness enjoys about savoring all of it,
Yeah.
because we're already arrived. We're already on the other side from one perspective. We're not here to arrive. We're here to experiencing the arrival, the arriving, the that process and that flowing and that flowering, growing from the ground all the way up. That's what life really treasures. And it treasures experiencing through all of the different increments and then coming in and disrupting something and playing. It's just like a kid in the sand, building up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the eternal innocence of what we can call source or God consciousness is playing with itself in
Yeah.
all of the layers of itself, infinitely inward and infinitely outward, in the unconsciousness. And it loves this part and it doesn't necessarily want a spoiler alert.
Mm-hmm.
Like it does and it doesn't. It's like, I want to experience it all and savor it all. I value it all.
Yeah.
I do. I like it all. I love it all. And it's like even shame. I created it, obviously. I
Mm-hmm.
created all of it, obviously. This is the essence. It's like it's all part of me. It's
I
all
also
part of me.
So two things while you were saying that, I was seeing the boy or little girl in the sandbox, kind of playing with the sand, and it reminds me of an hourglass in time that's
Mhm,
encapsulated within that hourglass shape.
mhm,
And it's just a kid like just dumping it all out and being like, "Wee!" and let's
mhm.
start over again. But also, to go back to the question I was asking, as I was saying that, I'm recognizing too, we're not, even though we're in a same cycle, and I think this is kind of what you're talking about as well, enjoying it. We're also not we're not the same people we were a year ago.
We
Last time this
think it's the
cycled around.
same. We think it's the same, but then as the awareness slowly starts to expand itself within the physicality of the
Yeah.
human, and that's again at the beginning, the essence coming down, just for a way of saying it, the essence coming down and like meeting in the middle and creating that amalgamation, that it is going to be like Aladdin over and over and over again. A whole new world, a whole new world, a whole new year, a whole new me, a whole new ring around the tree, a whole
Yeah.
new ring around the rosy, as it's like blossoming through time in this spectral awareness all together. And like every single experience on this planet is like a flower or a wave standing up, falling down, standing up, falling down. It's music, it's sound, and it's cymatics. And as the frequency comes in, it starts to excite a little more. It's causing
Yeah.
a little more excitement and exuberance and
Mm.
acceleration and exclamation. And it's it's slowly doing it because it likes it. It doesn't want to just amp it up and crush it all. It wants to slowly watch
Savor
the
it.
pattern change over time.
Yeah.
It loves it.
As you're talking about that, I was seeing so much. Where do I begin? Oh my God. There's so much. But savoring it. And I do see this. I kind of earlier I had mentioned that I had this vision of two planes. Did I say this? Two planes of reality that, let's say, they're panes of glass, and if you, or let's say flat crystals, and this one holds all this information, and this one holds all this information, and I keep having this vision of sliding into both of them, and then we're in between planes of existence, and then we're expanding out, right, and we're absorbing all of those ingredients, the new ones and the old ones. I think I might have said this, but I'm seeing this as relevant because we are now holding with us the cycle of the previous year, and now we have the cycle of the new year, and like you said, it's already happened. Therefore, we also have the future that's available to us now. The more we can expand into that medium of cymatics, what you're referring to, when you even said exclamation point, I have a vision of the sound behind the sound. I always talk about this, that there is not no thing. Like there's something. There is no thing. It's this, like you were saying, primordial energy. And in that soup, in that waves, energy, electricity, all of it, there's always a frequency that's there, that's supporting us in this womb of whatever we want to call it. And essentially, oh, I'm getting goosebumps. Like at the womb hug. Um, it's like this, and then we're creating texture, which I've talked about texture before, but the texture is a frequency, a sound, a shape, a color. And then we're essentially, it's new.
And we are recapitulating. We are recapitulating the all that we're given from the past reference, from the human aspect that contains all the data, corrupt and not, right? We can train all those files. And then there's another energy that's moving with us, that's creating the third thing, which is the key that we're in right now, that third energy. It's like the elephant in the room, but we're making the elephant, and we are also the elephant. We're making it, we are it, and we're becoming it as well at the same time. We're
Yeah.
it's like where just for an example, it's like the past and the future coming together and like going like this, and that's the third energy, is these two tectonic plates that are
Right.
coming and creating the new. Yeah, we're on the same wavelength. We're on the same wavelength, right? This is
Yeah.
the wavelength, and this is a very physical expression of the wavelength. And so I keep getting that we're forming new land, and this is a message that keeps coming through
Me
us,
too.
right? And it's beyond it, these, the universe gives us these beautiful metaphors and these stories and these plays on words, because it's like that's the most actually sophisticated way to relay the cymatics. We're actually just transducers, you and I, and the energies come in and it resonates, and we are speaking cymatics. We're fluxing and folding in with the words and the plays to create a spectral of meaning that is from direct core respondence. And it's a core that's responding to the dance of life, of oscillating frequencies, infinitely inward, infinitely outward, moving through all directions, meeting in the singularity that I am, we are, and you and I are coalescing together in this double bubble,
Yeah.
creating a third
Infinitely
energy.
in word.
Yes, infinitely inward. Yes, that's one for the books.
Oh, I love it. It's so
In
fun.
the beginning, there was the word, right? And the word was
And
with
difficulty at the
goodness,
beginning.
difficulty in the beginning. Yeah, finding that new footing, because we're in a hovercraft now. And
And we're
the
finding new words to describe what we're experiencing by creating our
yes,
own.
yes.
Oh my goodness. I feel like I want to go into so much more, but we're out of time, I think. I hear chaos erupting upstairs at your
Mhm.
place, and I hear some sounds outside. But so I want to just don't go anywhere just yet. But I kind of want to end on that note. And you know what's fun about this? There's so many things that are fun about this. But some of the questions that I ask, or
Just
I'm drawn to
everything.
ask, everything's fun. Um, I can hear, it's like we both do this. Like, okay, I can sense what somebody else might be asking,
The
or what would I
rebuttal.
yeah, like, okay, well, and we have just hit the tip of the iceberg because I know there's a layer of people who are like, well, how are we all, we're going through this, but ultimately, I did want to just touch briefly on the fact that we are also making choices in this chaos. And so there doesn't mean because we are witnessing all of this, observing all of this, and we're all part of it, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're all going to experience it in the same way. We're in different parts of the world. I'm experiencing, like you even brought up, Canada versus Florida. Very different. So my experiences and my connections with nature and what I'm learning through those experiences, ironically, still parallel yours, even though you're in a completely different country, even, which is crazy to think. Doesn't feel like that. But also, this is how it is in all of our experiences too. So even though everybody's going through a lot of chaos, and that can look like a lot of different things, it doesn't mean that that's going to be my experience. And it's so weird to say that, or to wrap our brains around that, especially with everything that we see going on in the world. I mean, we do feel for everybody else what they're going through. We do
Mhm.
have our senses, and it's even more powerful right now, I think, because our senses are opening up so much. We
Mhm.
are more emotionally triggered. Our hearts are seeking that coherence to help our brothers and sisters. And so that's just something I
Mhm.
want to point out. This isn't meant to be flippant. None of
Mhm.
this is. This is a very deep well of infinite understanding of how to understand and
Mhm.
understand and
And infinite
feel.
compassion.
Yeah.
It is compassionate because
Yes.
it does feel so deeply into all of the places and spaces, and then it is a way to somehow make peace and make sense and make that coherence without
Yeah.
um, or ostracizing any parts of ourselves. It's
No.
like all are welcome. All parts are welcome here in the inner standing,
Yeah. And
in the
this
primordial
reflection,
soup, or else
yes.
if it wasn't meant to be, it wouldn't be. So it is part of the ingredient. And so
Yeah.
where do I put that in the coherence, in the
And my
orchestration?
reality
Mm-hmm.
too. I think that's really important because it starts with us. It starts with
Mm-hmm.
my interaction with myself and my family, and then it ripples out from there. So, okay. I'm gonna thank you so much. This was so much fun as always. Thank you for everybody who has tuned in and watched this. In infinite gratitude and
Mm-hmm.
appreciation, I'm just gonna sign out on that. So, bye everybody. Thank you.